Good morning and welcome to the ORSI University demo. My name is Tony Green. I am the Director of Account Operations here with LocalGovU. LocalGovU being the third-party provider who has partnered with ORSIU to provide this training resource to the members that you serve. For today's demo, we're going to be doing just kind of a flyover demonstration of the ORSI University. This is designed to give you kind of just a brief overview and understanding of this training platform, what's involved, how we set up your member entities, and how we really get this going for the entities that are looking to utilize this program. So we've set this program up and it has been launched and ready to go now for about 6 months, just doing some final fine tweaking on this before, of course, we publicize this to the members that you serve under ORSIU. First and foremost, what we're seeing here is the actual portal page that LocalGovU has created for ORSIU and dubbed this as the ORSI University moving forward. So on this portal page, the portal page itself is really designed to mimic and match the look and feel of your existing website. When we do go to launch this program, this portal page link will actually be placed on your website. So that's going to assist members and really coming to your website, accessing the various content that you offer outside of this training program, but also a direct resource to go ahead and access this training site on the existing ORSIU website. So once a user gets to this location for the actual the login screen here, this is assuming that the user has already been set up. So LocalGovU is actually dedicating an account manager to ORSIU to assist all of your members throughout the entire setup process. And ultimately what we do is we will work together and collectively with ORSIU to, publicize the program, to communicate the program to your members, and really start driving interest in utilizing these training programs for your members. Through the ORSI University and through this portal page, this is really dedicated as the login screen itself. It's been set up that LocalGovU will actually set up your members who have expressed interest on their behalf. So we will actually go through the setup process to create that member entity account, assign or identify who is that primary administrator, meaning that primary contact for that training account, and then communicate there moving forward on assisting them to get employees set up within the system, accessing the training courses that have been made available to that entity, and really delivering this program throughout the rest of their entity for that matter. On the setup page, we're going to go ahead and navigate here. This is something, again, that we'll be using on the back end of our system. Your members won't see or have access to this, at least for the time being. But when we create a new entity or organization account, once we get here, we've actually got 4 various programs set up by ORSIU member types. So once we go to set up the organization itself, we have to identify or verify the ORSI University member type. Is this a local government entity member? Is this a school district or education entity member, a religious entity member, or a college university entity member? And the reason why we ask this is each member entity type actually has their own dedicated curriculum. So when creating this program, we identify that there's really 4 entity types that we're looking to serve this program. And through those entity types, we've identified a specific curriculum that would be assigned or available to each entity member, or each entity member type for that matter. So once we make our selections, we go through, we fill out the additional information for that entity, and then immediately once that account is set up, it's our opportunity to communicate that to the member. So when we're setting this up, we really want to work with you not only to identify that entity name, the entity type, but who is going to be kind of out of the gate, who's going to be that primary administrator, that primary contact for this entity in this organization, that once we have the account set up, we can communicate the next steps in the process to that key contact or that key individual within that entity. Oftentimes, it turns out that we may not have the best contact, so once we make that initial contact, we'll work with them to identify if there's any other or individual or personnel within that entity who is really dedicated to employee training, professional development, and so on. Through this program in the ORSI University and the various member types, there's really something in there for everyone to utilize, really expanding resources and training content covering the areas of human resources, safety and environmental, or general safety for that matter, and then other specialty areas either specific to schools, religious entity members, or colleges and universities. So there's really a wealth of training content that is available to the members for them to utilize. Really the access to the training is available around the clock, 24/7, 365 days a year. And that does not matter what device you're accessing that training on. So whether you have a cell phone, which is the size of laptops today anyways, additionally outside of that, if you've got, and I apologize about the pop-up here, additionally, if you're accessing this from a tablet, a computer workstation, or your home workstation for that matter, you'll be able to access this training whenever or on whatever device you're using to access that. So again, once we have the account set up, immediately the training is going to be made available for that entity based on the selection that they chose. We're going to go ahead and really, from this point forward and then the rest of the demo, discuss every step of the progress, from user progress on how they get into the system, how they access training that's been made available to them, and also conducting a kind of flyover administrative overview of all the various admin tools that are available to account administrators. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and log in. I've already plugged in my login credentials. This is set up as a local government entity member type, this account that we're accessing here. And really the goal would be to get all of you access to this training account so you can navigate through the training system yourself, learn a little more about the system, get hands-on, and if any additional questions pop up, of course, you'll always be able to contact us and inquire from within. So once I log into the actual ORSI University, I'm going to be greeted by a welcome message on the actual ORSI University welcome page. So it says, "Hello, Tony, let's get started." This specific message was crafted and delivered by a staff member within ORSIU. So we've plugged into ORSI University picture there. You've got the welcome message, and really from a user perspective, the end goal. When I say user perspective, I'm going to be discussing the differences really between a standard user and a user or administrator within the system. So when we talk about standard users, we're really referring to frontline staff within an entity, someone who is not in a supervisor role or really who is just not deemed as an administrator for the training account. A user is someone who can log into the system. They can always check their own existing training progress, but the end goal is to get the user in the system and navigate them from point A to point B, and really just getting them to the training, to utilize the training in and out of the system. So we really want to make that a very user-friendly experience. We understand from our end that not everyone is entirely tech savvy. They don't work on a computer all day long. They don't understand basic navigation through systems like this, especially a new system like this. So again, that end goal is to provide them those tools to log in, access the training that's been assigned to them or they're required to take, and get them out of the training as quick as possible. So when a user logs in, there's several areas to look at. First and foremost, this admin icon will not be available to a standard end user. Instead, this would be replaced by a reports link that would allow that user to click on the reports link and run and export reports directly from the system based on their own training progress. These reports would not give them access to any other employee's training progress on this training account. Additionally, they can always go and check their progress and certificates area. This is really designed to allow the users to look at either their current course progress, meaning current courses that are assigned to them and that are available for them to take, or throughout the life of the program, because we do track and document all training results in our system indefinitely, even whether or not that account has ever been utilized or hasn't been touched in the last 5 years. We will still maintain and document all training results. So the All Certificate section will show the full history of training courses completed in this account and also allow that user to go back and view or print their certificate of completion. We have customized the certificate of completion to be specific to ORSIU or Old Republic for that matter. And so we've got the color scheme, the Old Republic brand right there, lets them know the date earned, as well as the training course that was completed for that matter. Again, we'll always keep a running track record for this. Really, this is available as we still have entities out there that do prefer the traditional file folder method and personnel records. So oftentimes they take these records and plug them into personnel files and archive and track that information as well like that. So from a user perspective, though, again, the end goal is to get in the system, access the training, take the training I'm required to take, and get out. So from that welcome screen, the next thing I would do from that welcome screen is click here to see your courses and get started. As a user, this is going to direct me to have access to all of the courses that have been made available to me as a user. So while there are specific selections or there's been a specific curriculum that has been selected for each member entity type, it's really up to the administrators on that account to assess those training courses that they have access to and decide what they want to assign access to their employees. Additionally, keep in mind from an employee upload or launching employees in the training account and getting them active, what we do is once we set up that training account for that entity and start communicating with that primary contact or that primary admin, we send them what's called an employee upload form. This is just a basic Excel spreadsheet that can be filled out and returned back to us. We actually like to do the work for them. So once we get that form back from them, we will actually upload all of their users into the system, setting them into their very specific groups or departments within this training account or within that entity, and then being able to assign specific training access once those users are added into the system. And there's really two options from assigning training. We'll go over this in the admin section. But ultimately, from an administrator perspective, you can choose to grant them access to all training courses available, meaning giving the employee the options to choose what they want to utilize. Or as an administrator, you can assign specific training access. So if you wanted to push your employees through mandatory HR training for the first quarter of the year, you can set those times and really assign that specific access to those employees. That way, when they log in, the only training that they're going to see is that training that's been made available to them. But because this is a demo account that we're using today, I've got access to everything here in the system. But as you can see here, there's a bit of a legend that starts here. It tells us to choose course category. Right now, it's selected for all categories. You can see that. So it's going to show all of the training categories as well as the corresponding courses that fall underneath those categories, unless I choose to filter out or filter down to one specific training category. So for instance, if I select human resources, it's going to take this full list down here and only show me the human resources training courses that I can choose from. Once I've got that narrowed down, the next step in the process would be for me to go in and select the course that I want to start. So it is as easy as, I'm going to go ahead and turn off the volume here so it doesn't step on my toes during the demo, but it is truly as easy as selecting the course topic from the list below. Once you click on that course topic, that course is immediately going to prompt for you. So again, you've got immediate access to that training. It automatically logs right into the system, so you've got that. In looking at the system, we're just going to kind of touch on some of the basic navigation elements on navigating through the training course itself. Over here on the left-hand side, you'll see we have a module menu. This is about half the courses that have a module menu. Others are just a single module course. All courses are roughly anywhere between 35 minutes to roughly an hour, or give or take a little bit. We do have some training courses that fall into the 2 or 3 hour category, but I will say the majority of the content that we offer is that short format, anywhere between 35 minutes to an hour, and that does factor in the time it takes to navigate and complete the testing component. This course module menu, though, and as I mentioned previously, some are just single modules, others are multi-modules. The biggest takeaway is a module is very much considered a chapter in a specific training course. So we kind of walk the users through various chapters of each training course. In this instance, there's roughly 7 chapters in the sexual harassment in the workplace, starting with introduction all the way down to the summary and the wrap-up of this. And then everything in between, understanding harassment, harassment facts, harassment behavior, and so on. These are, again, just taking that single course topic and breaking that into various talking points or chapters. Another thing to keep in mind is each and every course does have audio playback associated with that, and that is in compliance with the ADA Act for that matter. So if you have employees that are visually impaired or hearing impaired, they'll still be able to access and utilize the training content and navigate through there, as the audio playback does read word for word the text as it's available on the screen. I can choose at any point to either use the navigation buttons over here to go and jump from chapters, or I can use the next page button naturally to navigate through each chapter. Also, I can drop this module menu out just to change the screen size a little bit, giving more access on screen. But navigation is very straightforward. It is designed as a pace yourself training program, so it does require the users to select the next page. With that being said, that is the only physical and technical requirement there is for a user to navigate through the training and complete the training. And we really like to reiterate that and let the members know, especially for those who have concerns about computer access or training access or the difficulty to navigate through the system. It's really as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1 being you log in, 2 you select to view your courses, and 3 you make that course selection. The rest is with the click of a button navigating through the actual training course. Additionally, another concern that usually comes up is what happens when you have a large group of employees who are accessing training at a single time. Is that going to slow down the network? Is that going to weigh down the network and slow things out? And the answer is no. Within our system, we actually build and host all streaming media files, be that audio and or video visual files, in our own server. So that actually removes the requirement to, so to speak, talk to, say, youtube.com, where a video might commonly be hosted. Instead, we host all training videos and all audio recordings within our own server, which means that cuts down significantly, almost eliminating any unnecessary streaming in order to access the training content. So that eliminates loading times to access the audio or the visual content. That eliminates weighing down on the network itself, which would ultimately slow things up if you had everyone who is streaming standard media files, say from YouTube or Pandora or something along those lines. Again, navigation is very straightforward, though. As I progress myself through the training course, we are going to introduce, and there will be what we refer to as progress checks scattered throughout the training course itself. Additionally, we do take a very strong blended learning approach with our training content, which means that there's going to be a mix of audio, visual files, various video components built into it, also those built-in progress checks which require the users to engage in the training course itself, and then lastly, the stringent verbiage that we provide. Really we're looking to provide the meat and potatoes of the content in a short format that is both quick to get through, but also contains enough information where that employee is walking away that much more knowledgeable about the course of study that they just completed. But again, also focusing on the ADDIE method that we use to create our content, really applying those strong adult learning principles as we navigate through the training itself. So it does help keep that user engaged, to help them navigate through the training course. Another thing to keep in mind too, let's say for instance we get interrupted, we have to walk away from the course, whatever the case may be. It's not always convenient that we can go in, we can sit down and complete this from start to finish. So if we get interrupted, we walk away from the computer, whatever the case may be, the system will log itself out after 15 minutes of inactivity within a course. But with that being said, we will always bookmark that user progress. So if we can see here, I'm on page 1 of 5 of the second module for this particular training course. Assuming that I walked away and I came back to my computer, I had to log back in, the next time that we select that exact same training course, it's going to give us the opportunity to pick up right where we left off. So literally, we are not going to lose any training progress throughout this course. And as you can see here, I was on module Understanding Harassment, that second module, and I was on page 1. So I can either choose to continue where I left off and or start over from the beginning. In regards to as users navigate through the training itself, we do document down to the second the amount of time that a user spends in the training material. Additionally, we will always document and track how many attempts it takes a user to pass a training course. So with that being said, that really gives the primary administrator or group or department administrator a wealth of information as in regards to their employees' training and progress throughout the training system itself. The next step in the process is we're going to go ahead and take a look at the admin section. Usually I would open this up for additional questions, but as this is just a standard demo, at this point, really we wanted to focus on that ease of access for the end user, the basic features that they have available to them, but also showcasing the training navigation throughout the course itself. The second piece, actually, before we jump to the admin section, is the testing component that's associated with this. I'm going to pull this up, and again, since I'm accessing this from the back end of my system, I've got some more access and some more rights to showcase some things here. But when I log in to take a course exam and I proceed to the testing, pretty much all courses are roughly anywhere between 10 to 20 questions at most. And keep in mind, too, when I start this test, it's going to tell me I'm logged in as Tony Green. That's my name. The required pass percentage for this training course, and the number of questions. When I start the testing, let's assume that myself and 3 other individuals were all sitting in a row next to each other, taking the same course at the exact same time as each other. There's a common concern that people will be able to jot down answers, questions 1 through 10, A, B, C, and D, and so on, which is also not the case. In our system, we do not only shuffle the actual order of the questions, we also have a test bank for that matter, so users are going to receive different questions on the exam. But additionally, even if they receive the same question, the answers are also going to be shuffled. So again, what that means is no 2 users will ever have the same course exam as another user within our system. It's always going to be varied, which also helps eliminate, so to speak, cheating the system or sharing results or answers within this. I'm going to go ahead and quickly just navigate through here and answer some questions. Hopeful that I get it wrong so we can showcase another user interface feature here. As I navigate this, you'll notice that I don't even have to click directly on that circle. I can click around it or anywhere within that ballpark, within that row, and it's going to make that selection for me. Once I've answered all my questions, I'm going to go ahead and select Finish and Grade. Again, I hope that I got this wrong, which I absolutely did. The one thing in our system that we do is we are going to show the users the questions that they missed. In this case, I missed 8 questions. We're also going to show the user the answer that they provided. We are not going to give the users the answers, though. It would require that user to go back, try to complete that exam again, but if this was a case where, a process of elimination for that matter, we'd know that if they were on the fence about this answer or another, well, now they know I was wrong, it wasn't this answer, and they can choose the correct answer associated with it. Jumping forward to the admin section. So as I mentioned previously, only administrators are going to see this admin icon that I'm circling here with my mouse. A standard user will never even see that link, so they could never access the admin site. Instead, that link would be replaced with a reports link that they can use to track their own training progress for that matter. But if they are set up as an administrator in the system, that reports link will actually be replaced by this admin link. An admin only needs to select or click on that admin icon to navigate to the administration site. The administration site is really set up, and we've got really 3 levels of administrative rights and administrative access, which we'll get to here in a second. But ultimately, you're going to see the admin menu on the left-hand side with the admin selections or the tool selections that I can identify. But really right here in the center of the screen, and what I'm highlighting here is instructions, so to speak, on what each one of these tabs on the left-hand side can do for you. So for instance, users and groups is used to organize users within your university into groups or departments. You can add users and determine which courses each user can access and or update and change the user information. So we're just going to go from top down, reviewing each and every aspect of this portion of the system, and hopefully, answering any additional questions you might have concerning administrative rights. So again, starting with users and groups, this is the one location that I can go to. I can add new users in the system, or I can create new groups or departments. We've got a blank slate here, so we're going to go ahead and take a look at how we can create various groups or departments within a training account. So when we think about a local government entity, we think about, and the departments that are served underneath the local government entity, we think about police department, human resources, public works, and so on. But we also understand that underneath those main or parent departments, there might be subgroups or departments that fall underneath that. So we're going to show you quickly how we use the groups feature to break entities down into those various departments and subgroups or departments. So to create a new group or department, right now we only have ungrouped users, which means there's not a department that's been created on this account. We're just going to walk through creating a couple of these. So when I select Create New Group, it's going to give the opportunity to choose a new parent. And that means that we don't have any other groups in here yet. So the first group that I'm going to create is considered a new parent. A parent group, again, would be, for instance, the police department. A subgroup would be considered dispatch, patrol, admin clerks, whatever the case may be. But the various subgroups or departments that would fall underneath the parent account for the police department. So we're going to go ahead and show you some examples here. Create that new parent group, police department, and now we're going to see this. If we go back to the users and groups section, we're going to see that there is a new parent group associated right here. If I go to create a new group, and let's say, just assume I want to create a subgroup of the police department, meaning I want to add in my patrol division of the police department. And rather than creating a new parent group or department, which would be like public works, I could go back through and I could select the police department and say patrol division. And now the patrol division is a subset or a subgroup of the police department. We can see how that breaks down. We can actually break this down even further. So we have the ability to create subgroups of subgroups. And we'll talk here in a second why that's important for administrators and really where that comes handy later on in the system here. So if I'm going to go back to creating a new group, now let's assume I wanted to create a subgroup of patrol division and place this into shifts. So if I create that group of the patrol division, go take a look at my groups and departments again, I've now got police department, patrol division, and patrol division shift 1. Again, we can do this for any and all groups or departments throughout the system, and this really does aid the account administrator moving forward, especially when it applies to running various completion reports or going into the system and just running to do a quick course assignment to a group or department of users for that matter. The next thing we're going to take a look at, though, is adding a new user. I previously mentioned when we launch a training account, we do upload the majority of the employees in bulk, but we do offer the ability for administrators to be able to add employees in the system one by one. Again, it's our goal to really assist the member entities from start to finish, and that includes trying to do the bulk of the workload for them, to include adding employees into the system. But, should there be a new employee that comes on board after we launch that initial training account for them, they can always send us an employee upload form, or administrators can jump in and use the Add New User feature to plug that information in. I'm just simply going to do a test user here. The first thing that we see here is the details section. So we're creating the details for this user. You'll notice as I plug in the user's email, which is not required but certainly recommended, it's also auto-filling that for the username. We absolutely recommend using that user email address also as the username, as that is unique for each user. And every user in our system must have a unique login or username to log in and access that training. I'll also set their password here. All passwords are encrypted within the system, so even while we're setting up this password for this user to log into the system the first time, if they change their login credentials, we do keep that encrypted from all administrators, but also including myself. Even as calling a master admin on the system, passwords will always remain encrypted, and that's very much a security measure. So while we can't read off individuals' passwords, we can always go through and reset individual user passwords for that matter. We also talked about earlier various admin privileges and various admin rights, and we're going to take a look at that right here. So underneath privilege, we've got that set up as a standard user, a group admin, admin, or primary admin. So we're just going to discuss kind of the breakdown of each one of those. The primary admin and a standard admin in the system, they have all of the same rights. They can go through, they can run usage reports for all users within the account. They can make course assignments for all users within the training account. And then they can go through and do various system settings that would affect all users throughout the training account. The only distinguishment between a primary admin and a standard admin is the primary admin is considered the primary contact for that account. So if we ever need to conduct any outreach, if we're conducting any e-blasts or phone calls to those users or those administrators, that primary admin, again, is identified as that primary contact for that entity, for that organization, and anything revolving around this training program itself. Once we have this information set up and chosen for a user, we automatically just create that user in the system. But not getting off topic, the next section of administrative users is what we would call a group admin. And a group admin has all of the same rights as a primary admin, as a standard admin, but is specific to their group or department. So if we go back and we look at the users in groups, an admin and a primary admin would have access to any and all users on this training account, regardless of what group or department they fall into. If I set a user up as a department admin or a group admin, and let's say that user is part of, say, the police department, this group or department here, if they're set up as a group admin, they would be able to have oversight and administrative rights over all users within this department and any subgroups that fall underneath it. They would not have access to any and all other groups of users or departments within the system. So really this allows the primary admin or the account admin to really delegate authority down to their department supervisors. While we may be working with, say, an HR administrator or the HR director for an entity, generally their sole focus is, and especially as it involves training, is various professional development aspects, but really focusing in on the HR elements of training, so harassment, diversity in the workplace, and so on. It's pertinent that we give or we grant various department heads access or rights to be group administrators because they have a better knowledge and understanding of the additional trainings that their staff needs. Again, whether that be various professional development or safety courses, whatever the case may be, it's really opportunistic to assign group administrative access to the system because then the weight of the program doesn't necessarily fall on the admin. It's really delegated down at that point to the various department heads. So once we make our selections in that create new user section, at that point that user is created, there's really two areas that we can go to assign users access. Once that user is created, for instance, they will have an access tab that pulls up next to the details section. And underneath that access tab, I can go in and select out of all the courses or training courses available on this account, I can choose exactly which ones we want to assign or make available to this user for that matter. It doesn't have to be all courses. You can do that by category. You can do individual courses. But this is just one area that allows us as administrators to assign new training access. Keep in mind, though, this can be a tedious task if you're trying to do this one by one. So that's really where the next option or feature within our system comes into play, and that's the license manager. The license manager is provided as a top-down view of all of the training content that's available on the account. Breaks that down, again, by category in alphabetical order, and then, of course, the courses in alphabetical order that fall underneath that category. Everything's always going to be assigned as unlimited access, so, again, what that means is your entity's personnel have unlimited access to any and all courses that are made available through this program. We'll also be able to see who that's assigned to, how many are left or available. Again, that's going to be always reflected as unlimited, and when the training will expire. We're still looking to put in a process on when courses are going to be rotated through, how often we revise the training curriculums and what we make available for that matter, and we're looking to nail those down still. But again, this is an overview of this program. They'll always be able to see when that content expires. Also keep in mind, training is never going to be inaccessible from the system or inaccessible. What I mean by that is even when training expires, we have it scheduled that new training would be reassigned immediately following that expiration. So there's never going to be a time gap or absence of training on the training accounts. Those two processes go simultaneously with one another. So once the courses are removed, the new access is automatically assigned to that training account. We discussed, though, when we're talking about assigning access to users, there was underneath the users and groups section and the access section for that user, you can assign specific course access on a user per user basis. Underneath the license manager, though, this is a location where we can go and assign or remove course access in bulk. So we can assign courses to users, we can assign courses to groups, or we can remove access from users or groups. Previously, we talked about why it's important to create groups or departments within the system. And this is one of those areas where this becomes really prevalent, specifically when we're assigning courses to groups of users. Naturally, the police department is going to have vastly different training needs than the public works department is going to. And while there might be some crossover for that matter, most of the time they're going to have a very specific training program that is specific to that group. And so either as a group admin, a primary admin, or a standard admin on the account, I can go in and access these assignments. Now, who I can make them available to just depends on what admin access I have. Again, because I'm set up here as a primary administrator on this account, for demo purposes, I'll have access to all divisions, or I'm sorry, all groups or departments, and all users to assign that to. It's as easy as selecting either all courses, or I can go through and select specific training courses that I want to assign. And you'll see that those courses are highlighted each time I make a specific selection. Same thing applies is what groups or users do I want to assign to. In this section, I'm looking at groups, so I could choose a group of users. For instance, the police department as a single group, the patrol division in the shift as a single group, or the patrol division itself as a single group. Those are the departments that I have set up in the system, and that's how I can make those selections. The other two assignments, or the other three options here, assigning courses to users, the exact same concept. I can choose and go through here, select those courses, and either select specific users and or all users within this training account. And then lastly, of course, that same concept of assigning access can also be used to remove access from users or groups. We're going to skip over course libraries. That's actually just not applicable for members to even utilize. Members are always going to have access to the specific content that's been made available to them, so they won't have to go through the course library or the course process to order training for that matter. The next and probably most important section here is the reports page itself. When I select the report, it's going to give me several options here. I can look at courses completed, courses not completed, course breakdown or user breakdown. If you're interested in seeing what each one of those reports can do for you, we certainly encourage go through clicks and buttons and try them out. You're not going to break anything, but also you can hover over the question mark to the right of each, and that's going to give you a brief description of what that report's going to provide you with. Assuming we'll run a courses completed report, we can choose that for specific groups of users. Again, this is department specific, and another reason why you want to put users into departments. You can do that by all users or specific users, just like when we selected to make course access or assign training access. Or you can even choose by course topic. So if I wanted to see all of my employees who have completed sexual harassment training, I can do just that. The next section down is the during section, so choosing that timeline. Do you want to do that for the current month, the current year that you're in, or between a specific date range? So assuming that maybe you assigned or required employees to complete harassment training in Q1 of this year, you could run a courses completed or not completed report for that time frame to achieve all of that data and information that you want. The next section, the last section down here, is how you want to view these reports. You'll notice, again, we've got those question marks here, so that's going to tell you what and how this report will be exported from the system. An HTML report is going to give you that information right on the screen. It's not going to give you anything to download or export, whereas a CSV file is the most commonly used, where that's going to download the completion records and provide that to you in a very bare bones Excel document. also giving you the ability to take that information, put that into other spreadsheets or any other personnel management software that you might use or your entities might use. CSV format is generally that standard format for imports and exports out of various management or personnel management systems. Last thing you do is just simply run report, and that report will immediately download for you. Really, we encourage our members to go in, try this out. It is very straightforward on navigating the system and what they need to use here. The second to last area that we're going to cover, though, is the settings section. This is really available for account administrators, and aside from editing just standard contact information, the only reason this would be used, so to speak, is if an administrator wanted to adjust the testing component settings. So we previously discussed when reviewing the user test, the default pass percentage in our system for all training courses is always defaulted at 80%. That being said, if there was a specific course requirement that the entity or the administrator wanted to ensure 100% satisfaction and 100% understanding of the training material for all employees, a user or an administrator simply needs to go into the settings, edit the test settings, and for whatever course topic that might be, again, assuming this is generally applied to more of the ongoing mandated topics like harassment training, they can go in and select to raise that pass percentage, or so to speak, raise the bar in 5% increments from 80% to 100%. Keep in mind they cannot make it any lower than 80% though. And then lastly, folks, the last area we're going to take a look at is really what's called the Get Certificates section. Again, we've previously defined that throughout the system, through the life of the program, and even after this program could come and go for that matter, we will always maintain user data and completion results. Everything is always going to be maintained in our system indefinitely. But as we mentioned, there's still entities and individuals out there who prefer the good old method of file cabinets and employee files. So for those individuals that really still keep stringent employee records on file, so to speak, we do offer a Get Certificates option. Again, we saw previously where a user could go and obtain and look at their certificates of completion, whereas on the admin side, this is applicable for all users within the system. So I can run a report, generate certificates for all users. We can set specific date ranges for that. That and today. Once I hit Get Certificates, it's going to look at all the users with certificates in the system. Select that, it gives me the link to download. You're going to notice it's going to download immediately right here on the left-hand side of my page. That does differ depending on what device or computer you're using for that matter. And then this is going to work with the PDF viewer that you've got in your system for that matter. So whatever PDF tool that you have set up on your desktop computer, laptop, whatever, that's what's going to refer to. And so as you can see here, it's showing me the name of the course, the name of the user, the date of completion for that matter, and what's all available to me. So I can see that. That's for all users on this account. I can double-click these files and pull that up right in front of me to view those and or save them, print them, whatever I want to do. And folks, this does wrap up today's demonstration. We're going to be taking this video, we're taking this demo and actually recording this demonstration. So this will be provided to you all. So by the time you're reading this and hearing this, you've already got this in hand. Please let us know, though, if you have any additional questions throughout this entire process. We have a dedicated account manager. His name is Spencer Howard, who is assigned to this program. You'll be able to reach him at any given point in time, but we do direct you to our toll-free number. We're going to always be available from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday through Friday, Central Standard Time. You can contact us toll-free at any given point at 866-845-8887. And you can either ask for Spencer Howard, who is, again, your dedicated account manager for this program, or myself, Tony Green. I'm responsible for the upkeep and the maintenance of this program and, all activities moving forward. So please, certainly do not hesitate to give us a shout. We're interested in getting this program off the ground and assisting both you as well as the members that you serve and providing them with a viable training resource or, options such as this. So please don't be afraid to ask any additional questions. We are always interested in helping out and seeing what we can do there. So we look forward to getting this off the ground and launching the ORSI University to ORSIU members for that matter. Thanks again, folks, and have a great day.